guys, welcome back to First and 10 over here on Clueless Gamers. I'm your host, Pete, joined as always in a second by my co-host, Brian. Guys, we are back for more NFL action here. Of course, we'll be covering the games of Week 6 and giving our picks for Week number 7. We're slowly creeping to that halfway point of the season. I hate rushing the NFL season, but man, it does come at you fast. And Brian and I were just talking right before this, like, yeah, there was some solid games in Week 6, but like none of any serious consequence of teams that we really believe are going to be in the playoff run, come December and close to January. And then a lot of the other games just kind of boring blowouts. So not super pumped up, I guess, but I'm still excited to be here with you, Bri. With that, I welcome you in. How are you? I know that might have been kind of a deflating intro, but hopefully you could provide some energy that I'm seemingly not finding right now.
Well, I think I only can make it more deflating when we get into the Jets a little bit because, I mean, my goodness, what a disaster this franchise is. They steep to new lows each week, seemingly. Yeah. I mean, it's really remarkable that it actually gets worse before it gets better, and it's been pretty bad, as we know. So, yeah, we got to get into that. But, then you look at the fact that the two teams that are on a bye this week are the Bills and the Ravens. These are two teams that we thought were quote-unquote powers in the AFC coming into the season. And we know about the Ravens, shortfalls, and they're 1-5. But all of a sudden, the Bills aren't quite looking so invincible. Yeah, and you look at their overall season, their wins have come against a lot of weak competition.
Yep.
The Jets are a part of that. And now, they've had a couple lackluster games in a row, most recently the Monday Nighter against Atlanta, where it was pretty much a stinker. So a lot of teams where we kind of, don't know just how good they are. It's kind of hard to figure who is good in the NFL right now.
No one.
You're looking at teams like the Bucks and the Seahawks that you consider maybe at the top of the league, which is not what anybody had before the season.
Yeah, and to speak on that, the title of last week obviously was the AFC is weird right now. It certainly is. The conference, I mean, the league does, but especially the AFC. It just feels wide open. Kind of feels like it's shaping up for Kansas City, honestly, which is, I know a lot of people, including yourself right there, it's like you roll your eyes to that, and it's like, yeah, they're kind of annoying at this point, right? Because they're just this model of consistency, very much the Patriots, but you got to give props to them. We'll get to them a little bit later, but it feels like they're the only team right now that you could genuinely trust, and they're 3-3 and have had some stinkers. So it's just like a weird time right now in the NFL, especially in that conference. And speaking of that, as we're recording, it's the Thursday night game of the Steelers and the Bengals. And the Bengals just took a 14-10 lead on the Steelers, who came in 4-1, and the Bengals have lost 4 in a row. And it's, as Cam Hayward said, it's the icy hot bowl with the two oldest quarterbacks in the league going against each other. It's just a weird time. Like, it doesn't even shock me that the Bengals could win this game. I almost picked them in our picks league. It's just like, what's going on? How do you differentiate who's good, who's bad? I guess when you get to the colder months, you get around Thanksgiving, that's when you're going to start, kind of deciphering and splitting up kind of, your fakers and the actual people that are for real. But, Brian, you said it in the beginning. We're unfortunately going to talk about it. I'm sure there's only a couple people listening to this podcast that might be excited about this. We go to London last week. Denver and the Jets. This game finished with the Denver Broncos winning 13-11. I'm not sure if that's a scoregami. You could fact check me on that, but oh my. I woke up about halfway through this game, and then I watched it, all the highlights of the first half that I missed after the game ended. I'm not even mad at myself that I didn't wake up to watch this game. I mean, this game in the second half that I watched was putrid. It was awful. I mean, it's one of those games right off the top of your head in the last 5 years. You're like, is that one of the worst games I've ever watched in the last 5 years? Like, it was that bad. And look, this is going to be kind of, I know it's 6 weeks in. I know it's, trust the process, things like that. Let's just be honest. What we're all thinking, the New York Jets are a joke of a franchise. They're a joke of a sports franchise. They are by far the worst North American sports team. I don't think that's really debatable. They're, we know about the longest playoff streak. It's been like 15-something years that they haven't made the playoffs. But, Bri, they are, and I'm sorry because they are your team, they are just deplorable. Like, there's nothing that gives you hope about this team week in and week out. There feels like there is nothing that they improve upon. In fact, they feel like they are worse every single week. And in a game where Denver, coming off a huge win against the Eagles, they clearly played down to the competition. I thought Bo Nix was terrible in this game. The game should have been there for the taking, and the Jets end up with 47 passing yards from Justin Fields. If you account the 9 sacks that he was taken down on, it would be negative 10 net yards of passing. I mean, I can't even remember having a stat in recent memory of that. They looked afraid to throw the ball. They looked afraid to make decisions. We'll talk about that play at the end of the first half, which was just disgusting. I mean, I don't understand how a professional football team, how that could happen. I mean, you're a fan of this team, and I give you a lot of props that you still are. What was your assessment and kind of take as you were watching this game unfold on Sunday?
Oh boy, I mean, it was just flat out ugly. I mean, you talk about the net passing yardage. I think I saw the stat. The was the worst passing total by a team in 27 years. I'm surprised there was even a team 27 years ago that managed to have
Yeah.
negative 10 passing yards. I thought the Jets might have become the first, but yeah, Justin Fields, this was pitiful. I mean, he had 45 yards passing for the game.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
I mean, they did not have a first down until I think it was late in the first half. Their first down came late in the first half, and I'm really just at a loss for words here.
No, go
mean,
for it.
Because
Whatever you got.
This team, it's amazing that we're actually longing for the days of Robert Saleh and, dare I say, Zach Wilson. I mean, at the time they fired Robert Saleh, I was kind of on board with it. Like, the team wasn't playing well, but now I would take the Robert Saleh era and say, well, it wasn't good, but it's 5 times better than what we're watching right now. I mean, this is just pitiful, and it's the sign of a bad team when, like, the two units aren't in sync. Like, the week 1 of the season, their offense miraculously comes out and scores 30 plus points, which we haven't seen anything close to that since. But the defense is horrendous. So now they have a game. Actually, the defense comes to play.
Plays really well.
The special teams defense plays really well. Special teams not too bad, and the offense has just a historically bad performance. I mean, and there just seems to be no answers coaching wise here. I mean, the quarterback play is terrible. They have, we thought the offensive line may have been somewhat of a strength. Well, then you watch this game and watch Fields get sacked 9 times, and not all of it is on the offensive line. I mean, he's holding onto the ball way too long. We know he doesn't have great weapons, and oh, by the way, Garrett Wilson gets banged up in this game, and they're probably not going to have him this week. So, what can you say? They're winless. I mean, there's no hope. I can't even look at it as a silver lining that, oh, they're going to be so bad and they're going to draft a quarterback and that quarterback is going to save the franchise. We're so far away from that because there's nothing in place here. I mean, they may have a few good players here and there on each side of the ball, but there's no cohesive team that's in place, and it's a coach that hasn't proven anything so far. So what gives you hope? I mean, they are completely lost, and I think have never been as lost as they are right now.
Yeah, if you looked at stay with me for this analogy. If you looked back at history and like actual historical history, and you take a city or you take a development, a settlement that is this cursed, that has this many bad things happen to it, you would destroy the city and salt the earth and make sure nothing grows there ever again. Like, that is the Jets franchise at this point. Like, I'm starting to get to the point, I'm 31, I'm starting to get to the point, and I'm convinced that I don't know if it's possible for this franchise to ever be good. Never mind Super Bowl caliber. Like, I am at that point. They've been through so many regimes, so many quarterbacks, so many coaches and GMs and players. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. No matter what, when players come to the Jets, they suck. Let's look at most recently Aaron Rodgers. I understand he's on the way back 9 of his career, but he's playing way better with the Steelers than he ever did with the Jets. Like, it's just, there's just something about, I don't think Rodgers is that much better of a player with the Steelers than he was with the Jets. I just think the organization and the culture around him supports an older quarterback more that allows him to look better and play better than anything the Jets were doing. It's just, it's hard to watch, and then it's hard to watch when Aaron Glenn has that press conference after the game. I understand emotions are high, and he's asked, I think, very fair questions by the Jets media, guys that have been on the circuit for a long time, Connor Hughes among them, and he gets, and it's not the first time he's done this season, Bri. He gets extremely defensive, and he kind of belittles, I forget the reporter's name, but he belittles the reporter saying, you know better than that to ask a question, when he talked about making a switch possibly of taking Justin Fields out of the starting quarterback role and putting Tyrod Taylor in there, which I thought was a completely fair question, because I think if Taylor even starts that second half, if not the fourth quarter, I think the Jets win that football game. That's how bad the Broncos played. So I thought that was a completely fair question. And then even during the week, like I think he had it yesterday or something, Glenn is talking about, they're asking him about, are they going to push the ball down the field more? And he said, you guys will, you'll bitch about that if something goes wrong. Like, I just doesn't feel like that's the attitude that you should be giving to the media, that I think is asking completely fair questions. And it just feels like early on, Bri, and I understand it's early, but it feels like Aaron Glenn's kind of crumbling under the New York media pressure.
Yeah, you could say that. And look, I mean, they tried selling Aaron Glenn to this fan base, and like his big calling card was, oh, he played for the Jets and he was a good player and knows what it's like, and is passionate about wanting to turn it around and build the culture, and all that's well and good, but it doesn't guarantee that the guy is going to succeed as a head coach. I mean, how many of these coordinators have success in their side of the ball, which Aaron Glenn, I mean, you look at his Lions defense last year, it wasn't really all that good. I mean, like, he was an okay coordinator. And, some of them are going to turn out to be good head coaches, but the majority are not. And the Jets never go for like an established coach, a la Jim Harbaugh or someone of that ilk. It's like they're allergic to going for those kind of
always
candidates.
First-time coordinators.
Cycling through first-time coordinators, Todd Bowles, Adam Gase, Robert Saleh, and now Glenn. All 4 of them came from the coordinator ranks. And so, Gase, did have the stint in Miami, but he was just a disaster too. It's just like, as much as they try to change things, and that's, fans always call for change. Well, they keep changing things, and nothing is working, and that's the frustrating thing, because they're not keeping the same people in place. They're changing the GM, they're changing the coach, they're changing personnel all over the place, and they're only taking steps backward. So it just seems like there's no answers. And I just want to bring this up because I was talking with a friend of mine, and I just happened to sarcastically ask him, like, you think the Jets will be able to turn it around? And his response was, before we die, maybe.
That's a good one. Yeah, I mean, it's a legitimate question, Brian. And I think a couple things have to be asked, right? Like, Muji, the GM, one of the first things this new regime does, and we talked about this, I think, in a previous podcast, is they sign Sauce Gardner to this long, giant extension, make him one of the highest paid defensive players in football. He's not worth that. He's a paper bag out there, man. I mean, the guy's getting mossed and run by, burnt toast every time. And I know there's a lot of people want to give him credit. In this game, he contained Cortland Sutton. I'm like, no, the Broncos' offense and Bo Nix were just that bad. I'm not attributing him to so many of the plays. Oh, he was a shutdown corner. I'm like, no, like, they were that bad. And the Jets defense played better as a whole. but he's not certainly worth the money that he was given. And then you have the other element of it right now. I know it's early, but you look at the opposite side of that stadium there in MetLife, and the Giants were just as putrid for the last decade. There's a little bit of hope glimmering now. And you look at that
Yeah.
team
Oh, yeah.
through all of the talk that has happened with Shane and Dayball and fire these guys and let's move on. They're in their fourth year. The consistency of keeping them from the Maras could prove beneficial for the development of their guy in Jackson Dart, in Cam Scatterbo, when they get Neighbors back, this young defensive line that they have going right now. Like that, there is benefits, obviously, to consistency and structure. And when you have the Jets constantly, to your point, turning over and over, not finding the right quarterback, I think also the problem is, Bri, back-to-back defensive coordinators, first-time head coaches. This is an offensive league, man. Like, most of the time, you want to hire a Ben Johnson. Like, that's the guy. And I think you guys are so burned on the Adam Gase situation that it has kind of made you guys allergic to hiring a first-time offensive coordinator as head coach. And I don't think that's the right mantra. And then if this thing spirals, Bri, and they have to get rid of Glenn after 1 year, there's not really that many great coaching candidates at this moment that you could go, that's the guy, right? Like, do you turn to a McCarthy maybe, as an established guy? But, like, I don't know. I kind of mixed feelings on him. I mean, like, it's 6 games. I don't want to be calling for a coach's job yet. But right now, like, every week, Bri, it just feels like it gets worse.
It really does. I mean, I think we covered it. I don't want to continue the misery. We got to give some other teams a chance, but we did just have to bring up that game mainly
Bad.
just because of how bad it was. The amazing thing is, though, as you alluded to, is that the Jets actually had a chance to win the game. I mean, they're driving.
They
All
did.
they need is
20
a
yards.
field goal, and they can't get the job done because of more, inaccuracy from Fields. He couldn't connect with Garrett Wilson, who, like I said, was banged up in the game. And I mean, they fall short. And they score 11 points. 2 of them come on a safety.
Yep. From a
3 of them
holding.
come on a gift field goal on the first play where the defense actually gets a takeaway, their first of the season,
Yep.
stop the presses, and then they can't move the ball an inch and settle for a field goal. I mean, the offense, it was one of the worst offensive displays I've seen in my years watching football,
I
and I
know,
don't
which
think
is
that's hyperbole.
it's crazy to say that, and now you have all the rumors to wrap this up of Breece Hall looking like he wants out. Apparently, there's some rumors of him asking for trade demands. It's just not good there. But before we transition, I said again, like, look, this Denver team, sure, they're 4-2. I haven't been impressed really at all. I know they're coming off the late comeback win against the Eagles and all that, but I think there's a lot to be desired, particularly from this Denver offense, and that's something I also want to see going forward. Brian, the other game we want to talk about here in week number 6 to wrap it up, let's go towards Sunday Night Football, Chiefs-Lions. Look, it was one of the games of the week. It was an impressive display by the Kansas City Chiefs. They take down the Lions 30-17. And this game was actually a lot closer than the score says. There was a couple moments in this game where the Lions had to kind of go for it, gotta have it play. Amon-Ra drops a ball for the first time in, I think, over 2 years. He drops a pass, kind of flips the game on its head, and the Chiefs were off and running. Bri, I think one thing to say is, like, I don't know how much I believe in this Chiefs team. I think they're kind of the front runners for the AFC, but they just lost this terrible game to Jacksonville the week before. I just don't know how I feel about them. The one thing I can say right now is I trust this offense of Kansas City way more than their defense. It feels like this offense is clicking right now. Do you feel this gives it feels like 2022 MVP Mahomes vibes, where it wasn't all over the top. It was a lot of dink and dunk, but it feels like this offense has that capability right now. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, I mean they've definitely turned a corner here. It seems like ever since getting Xavier Worthy back in the lineup, I mean those first few games it was rough.
It was
It may
ugly.
have been like the worst we've seen from Mahomes in the offense over the last 3 years, and they had some tough moments over those
Yeah.
last couple of seasons, but early on it wasn't clicking, and then worthy. That really seems to be kind of the ingredient that was
Yeah,
missing. I mean, he's helped a lot. Mahomes, in general, has just looked a lot better. I mean, they got the running game going a little bit more, which is something that I kind of called them out on last time. I mean, we've
yeah.
had a lot of games where Mahomes ends up being their leading rusher. They need more from Pacheco. They kind of got it here in this game. So I do think their offense is looking better. I mean, Kelsey is still capable. He's still making plays. And that was a big win,
Yeah.
against a team that can score a lot of points. And I know, the Chiefs defense hasn't looked great, but to hold them to 17, I think was a good job by the Chiefs. And I would say, like, by default, they're kind of at the top of the
I
AFC
feel that way too.
because, they may not be playing best, but it's more so how bad the Ravens are and the Bills lately showing their warts. That suddenly the Chiefs and their past pedigree of winning and the quarterback that they have, you kind of have to put them at the top right now.
I know it's not a standings relation, right? It's more about just kind of your vibe, your feel, your eye test, and it feels like they are the top of the AFC right now in a very shaky AFC because I'm still shaky on the Chiefs, particularly on the defense. I will say I called out Chris Jones last week, and I thought his effort has not been fantastic this season. I think even last season he kind of had a more down year for his standards. He had a hell of a game here against Detroit. So he played fantastic. He was a monster, moving the pocket all over with his pressures. He deserves a lot of credit. I thought especially that bad look at the end of the Jacksonville game, this was a nice bounce-back game for Chris Jones, and he really kind of helped solidify that defense and slow down this Detroit attack, which early on, quick 10 points, they looked like they were having it. And then they have a thing on the goal line where they get a fake touchdown play. It gets called back on an illegal
Yeah.
motion, and then they kind of like can't figure out what's going on. It felt like they lost their identity for the rest of the game after that. And the Lions, I felt in this game, they kind of became unraveled during and after the game. This felt like a game where it kind of broke them a little bit. They got bullied. They're normally the
Yeah.
Motown team is supposed to be the one that kind of runs it down your throat, right? With those, the Sonic and Knuckles, right? That's what they do. And they got bullied in this game by the Chiefs. You saw it all over the field, and then it culminates at the end where Brian Branch kind of takes a swing, starts a fight with Juju Smith-Schuster. Whether Juju kind of incited that during the game, it looks like there is some evidence to say that. But if you're Brian Branch, you can't be throwing fists at the end of the game and starting a whole brawl, which Mahomes was involved in. Brian Branch, of course, ends up getting suspended one game. He'll miss this next week here from the NFL. I mean, what'd you take from the Lions' perspective, Bry, of where they just seemed off, really, starting in that like late second quarter, and they weren't the same team?
Yeah, well, I was going to bring up that exact play that you referenced where they were going to score a touchdown, and that was the opening score of the game.
Yeah.
And of course, it was going for it on fourth down, which is their trademark. And
Yep.
it looks like, they're off and running it to a 7-0 lead. That gets called back on penalty, and they have to settle for a field goal. That's very unlions like to
Yes.
be settling for field goals, especially in the red
They
zone.
were
So
so
it felt like
close.
that right there. Yeah. And it felt like even though it was early in the game, that like you said, they just never could
Mhm.
get fully in the game. They never got their offense clicking. They didn't get the running game going. Amon Ra had clearly an off game. You're not used to seeing him drop the ball, especially in a key situation. So yeah, it just seemed like they didn't have their rhythm. And then as far as like the post game altercation, I saw something where like apparently Mahomes was taunting
I
Branch,
saw a
and
little of
so
that.
he was upset with that, and so he refused to high five Mahomes in the post game,
Right.
and then clearly Juju took exception to that, and then got the pop to the face. So, it clearly went both ways there. Obviously, you're not going to excuse that kind of behavior. I
No.
mean, you got to control your emotions better. We know that it's, the heat of the moment after a tough loss like that. But if you're Burns, you got to have more restraint in that situation, even if you're more upset with Mahomes' behavior during the game.
Yeah, I thought, what Brian Branch obviously did was wrong, but I love what Dan Campbell did after the game, where he was just like, look, he's a great player. We respect him. We don't do that stuff here. Like, he was very
Yeah,
clear of, like, he wasn't trying to, like, just hollowly support his player of like, oh, they did this to him. It's like he called that right out, and I appreciate that about Dan Campbell, about that culture there. Because
Yeah.
I have questioned in the past, and I've said this to you, where it's happened in a couple of the Rams games. You've seen it throughout. Like the Lions they're very an edgy team, right? They play with a lot of emotion, much like the Eagles. And I think sometimes it teeters the wrong way. And they, in the past, when they blew up Tyler Higbee's knee in that game, like they've made some questionable to dirty hits. And that's, they did it to TJ Hawkinson as well, ended his season. Like, I think there is some elements of that. And this, I think, kind of culminated where it boiled over a little bit. Now, I did see another clip. I know the one you're referencing. I did see another clip where Juju was kind of shoving Branch in the back several times after the play was over on previous, obviously, times in the third and fourth quarter. So that, I think, also culminated into the situation. The bottom line is you can't handle yourself like that. And Branch apologized for it afterwards. It's just not what you do. It's not professional. That's not handling it like a gentleman. And he's now going to pay the price here. But it just felt like the Lions all night, they were dinking and dunking. Amon-Ra, not only the drops, he has 9 catches for only 45 yards. Felt like it was very close to the line of scrimmage game, and it felt like this is what you do when the Lions are behind. It just feels like Jared Goff, that's where his limitations shine brightest.
Yeah.
Where he can't, we've seen this with the Rams. I certainly seen this. He can't lead the team back when they're down 7, 10 points or more. There is limitations to his game, from his mobility to just the way he processes it. And I think sometimes the way he panics as well. Do you kind of feel that way when you watch Jared Goff? And, because when this team is rolling and they're out ahead, they're a great front runner. It just feels the opposite when they're behind.
I agree completely. I think there's a few teams like that. The Cowboys come to mind when they're at their best
The
and
Ravens,
they're
too.
rolling. They're playing with a big lead. Ravens too, and we've seen the Ravens blow a lot of big leads. But yeah, Detroit's one of those teams where like when it's all rolling, like you can't seem to stop them. But you get them off their step just a little bit, and you can have your way against them. I mean, the game that's the biggest uh, example of that is last year's playoff matchup against Washington, where they, had the mistakes early in the game. Goff's throwing pick sixes, and that's, they tried to make a run in that game in the second half, but they're not a team that's built to come back from those kind of leads, because suddenly they get away from the running game and it's just Goff dropping back to throw, and they're not nearly as effective that way. So they are a team that seems like you can kind of rattle them a bit and get them off their mark, and then really find a way to have success.
Yeah, and I still think they're an excellent team. I think they're one of the top teams in the NFC, but this feels like it's one of those games we might look back at when they're in the playoffs in the NFC, and you're like, there's the blueprint game. The Chiefs showed the league right there, or they showed their NFC counterparts. That's how to stop this offense. That's how to slow them down. And I think that's going to kind of lead repercussions. But you know what? I will say for now, for the Chiefs side of it, before we get into picks, it is kind of nice to see Mahomes back to Mahomes. Like seeing him distribute, having 4 touchdowns for the second time this season. That's what I want to see out of the best quarterback in the league. I want to see him play well. I don't want to see these 13-10 games he throws for 120 yards. Like, who cares? I'm sorry. I don't care. I want to see the best player play the best. I don't think that's crazy to ask for that.
I'm with you 100%. And like you said, lately we've been seeing Mahomes closer to the top of his game, which is good news all the way around.
Thank goodness. And checking in as we're doing this live, as I said, during the Thursday night game, Cincinnati at halftime up 17-10, which honestly, not even that shocking. Like the Steelers I shouldn't even have picked them. They're just phony. They're phony. They've been phony since the days where Big Ben was kind of washed toward the end, 2019, 2020. They're phony again. They've played an easy schedule, and if you look at their schedule coming ahead, Bri, it's brutal. Like I think there's a possibility that this team could go from looking at 5-1 if they won tonight to literally being below 500. Like if you really look at their schedule, like they're phony, man. But we'll see as that goes on. But guys, let's get into the picks here for week number 7. Of course, I think we both picked the Steelers, right, coming into this game as the game is going on, so that's not looking great. But we'll start off in London, 9:30, my LA Rams heading to Jacksonville, which is basically their home away from home. And Jacksonville feels like they're there every single season over in England. A game where it's Thursday. We don't know who's playing right now, but I would lean towards Puka's not playing. Tutu Atwell, questionable. I don't know if Rob Havenstein, the right tackle, is going to play for the Rams. They're definitely beat up. They just played East Coast. They're traveling over on Saturday for this game on Sunday, which I hate when teams travel international late. I think that's always a mistake. Bri, who you taking in this game in a pivotal matchup for both teams?
Yeah, really an interesting game, better than the typical London game. And I mean, the Londoners needed after being treated, if you will, to the Jets and Broncos
I think
last
we
week. So
gave
they
them that
should get.
game, Bri. We gave them that game because they tried to beat us in 2 world wars. I literally think that's why we gave them that game. That's how bad it was.
Yeah, you might be right, and you managed to get a second historical reference in
That's what I'm
there.
here
So
for, baby.
there you go. I'm gonna take the Rams. I know that they're not at full strength here, and like you said, it seems like signs are pointing toward Puka not being able to give it a go. It seems like they dodged the worst. At first, it seemed like it could have been a long-term
Yeah.
injury, and they ruled that it wasn't going to be. So that's thank goodness. I mean, for the Rams and
Thank God
fantasy owners, because this guy has been lighting it up.
for
But
my
they still
sanity.
have Devonte Adams, and I think he'll be targeted heavily in this game. It'd probably be more kind of a defensive game. I mean, with the Rams down their top weapon, but I just think the Rams are the better team. I know you have reservations about them. Jacksonville, for me though, I trust them on defense, but the offense to me is
It's fair.
still an issue. I
It's
mean,
fair.
Trevor Lawrence is I thought was going to be better this year. He hasn't taken enough of a step forward. There hasn't been enough of Travis Hunter. Brian Robinson hasn't been as big of a factor as maybe we would have thought. So I see this
Brian
as being
Thomas.
like a field goal game. It seems like a lot of these London games come down to a field goal at the end. It really does. I think this time the Rams come out on top.
Yeah, well, Bri, if it comes down to a field goal game, our field goal kicker and the blocking for the special teams unit are maybe the worst in the league right now. So I would not feel good about that. Yeah, I'm taking Jacksonville. I think this game is clearly set up for a Rams failure game. A team, West Coast team, traveled East Coast last week. Like I said, coming over late, going to London. That I don't think they've been over there in years. Going against a team that is fairly comfortable in Jacksonville, who's done this multiple times, does this every single season. And it just, the Rams are most likely going to be without Puka, who accounts for, I think, the 3rd highest percentage of any NFL player's offense so far this season. That's a major loss. Stafford and Devontae have not been on the same page all year long. I just think this team is a little beat up. I think they've not played great this season. They should be lucky that they're 4-2. They got to get healed up going into this bye. And I just don't see them being able to cut through this Jacksonville defense, especially if it is a field goal game. We missed a 26-yard field goal last week off the right upright. I have zero confidence in Joshua Carty and that whole team right now that they can make a kick. And I think Sean McVay, based on his answers and his facial expressions last week on the sideline, he has zero confidence. One of the reasons why we went for a 4th down inside the 10-yard line last week and we didn't end up getting it is because he knows even a chip shot field goal is not a chip shot field goal with this team currently right now. For all those reasons, I'm taking the Jaguars. The 1 o'clock games start off with the Saints at the Bears back in the States. An interesting game because the Saints are better than a 1-5 team. That being said, I feel like I'm going to take the risk here and I'm going to take the Chicago Bears. It feels like they've turned a corner a little bit. That post-game kind of, rile-up speech there from Ben Johnson after their huge victory against the Commanders, it felt like that was a moment. That was a solidifying moment that can be like, all right, this could be our guy. This could be our coach. And where I feel like Caleb Williams has not played up to his potential so far this season, the Bears seem like they are buying in, and you're going against a 1-5 team at home. I'm taking the Bears.
Yeah, I'm with you here, and I mean, I'm not a big Bears
No.
believer. It's kind of been one of my trademarks here. But I'm also not a believer in the Saints, and I know that they've been competitive here most games, but I do feel like the Bears have kind of found something. They've won their last three games. It hasn't necessarily been pretty, but I think at home against a lesser opponent, Caleb's starting to gain some confidence. Ben Johnson kind of getting his feet under him as a head coach. There's been some improvement here. Rome Odunze has taken a big
Yeah.
step forward. I mean,
He's
he's
played
a
well.
legitimate weapon now at wide receiver. So, I don't think this team is great by any stretch, but I think at home against a lesser opponent, I think they're going to be able to keep up the winning ways.
The Dolphins head to the Browns. Man, we have some rough games this weekend. These games do matter for draft positioning as the season goes on here more and more in the tankathon. You got Dylan Gabriel versus Tua. Who you got in this one? I really don't know.
I think the most interesting thing you can say about this game is you have a lefty quarterback matchup on
Yeah,
both
you don't ever
sides.
see
And when
that.
was the last time
Yeah.
you saw that? Yeah, I mean, so that'll be kind of interesting. I'm taking the Browns. Do I feel good about it? No, but the Dolphins are just a total mess. I
Yeah.
mean, just when you think they're starting to play better, they're up 17-0 against Carolina. They can't get it done. And last week they lose a close game. I mean, they play decently, but they come up short. I just think the clock is ticking here on Mike McDaniel. It just doesn't seem like he's going to be long for this job. You hear the rumblings that ownership is getting antsy. We know they don't have Tyreek Hill anymore. Jalen Waddle could be on the move. This franchise is just in flux. And I think the Browns, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, play with a lot of spirit, a lot of energy. Tua's made a lot of mistakes this year. I think this is a game where they're going to kind of force some turnovers, and that'll be the difference.
Yeah, I could totally see your points there. I'm not a Dolphins believer, but I am taking them in this game. I do think they
Wow.
have just enough talent to get over the hump. Even though they've blown these games against the Panthers and the Chargers, they have scored upwards of 25 plus points. I don't think the Browns and Dylan Gabriel can do that right now. And even though I respect this Browns defense, even if we make this game down and dirty and it's 13-10, I think the Dolphins have enough. That being said, Bry, this right here, I'll call it right now, you're right, and the Browns win, I think McDaniels is fired on Monday. I think this is the moment. This is it. The writing's been on the wall. I've been on this team since our prediction show. I've been saying it. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. This is the moment right
Yeah.
here. We have Tua's press conference last week calling out, players not coming to player-only meetings and showing up late. Bro, you're one of the captains of the team. Call yourself out. You just threw 3 interceptions. There's no accountability on this team. It's a mess, and it starts with Mike McDaniel. I think if they lose this game to a fellow 1-5 team, that'll be the end of his tenure. The Raiders head to the Chiefs, and the Raiders only one game off the Chiefs, but man, these two teams feel completely different right now. I'm easily taking Kansas City. Mahomes, I think, is like 12-2 against the Raiders in his career. I think, honestly, this is going to be one of the few blowouts of the weekend, given the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm taking the Chiefs. I might say it'll be a little closer just because, divisional game. And we've seen, even though the Chiefs have
Yep.
won most of those games, the Raiders have given the Chiefs some trouble. I mean, they play them tough a lot of games, even in Kansas City. You can remember like Monday night games where they're right in and have a chance to win. So I think the Raiders have next to no chance to win, but I think they will cover the big spread. I'm taking the Chiefs, but I'll say by 10, not more than 13.
Speaking of teams falling apart, the Eagles head to Minnesota, a team that's on a 2-game losing streak in the Philadelphia Eagles, and rumbling starting there as well. A report came out, Jeremy Fowler this week, that supposedly one of the players currently on the team in the locker room for the Eagles this year said this team gives them a lot of vibes right now to the 2023 team that ultimately, as we know, ended up collapsing. You have a current player saying that to a reporter, even though we don't know what player it is. That's not good. That's a no-no. Like that, you can't have that happening in the locker room. The leaders of the team got to be policing that. You can't be letting information get out like that. It's not great right now. That being said, Bry, they're playing Carson Wentz. The Vikings are a mess right now. If the Eagles don't win this game, I mean, they're in so much trouble. I'm taking Philly. They gotta break out of this slump. Give me the Eagles.
Are we sure though it's Carson Wentz? I know JJ
I
McCarthy has been back practicing this
yeah.
week. Did they say Wentz is
It's
definitely
not
going?
been 100% confirmed, but just the way Kevin O'Connell has addressed some of these press conferences that I've watched this week, it feels like more, he's back out there, he's looking good. I don't know if we're ready to bring him out there yet. That's kind of my vibe.
Well, even if it is Carson Wentz, it's a Carson Wentz revenge game going
Oh yeah,
against his old team. I'm taking Minnesota.
there you go.
I kind of have a feeling here, like you said, we're getting vibes with Philly from 2 years ago. They don't look the same right now
No,
at
we've been saying
either
it all
side
year.
of the ball. Offensively, like Barkley is just not nearly doing what he did last year. Like
No.
it looks more and more like the reason they were so dominant last year is because of Barkley's
Yep.
like nuclear season.
Yep.
And now he's kind of been held under control and Hurts hasn't been good enough to get them over the top. Their defense hasn't been what it was last year.
No.
We know they lost some key players in free agency. So this is a game where yeah, the Vikings have their issues, but they also have a lot of talent, especially on the offensive side. I'm looking for Justin Jefferson to have kind of his big signature game. We haven't really seen it yet this year. I think it's coming this week. I think Wentz against his old team, tough place to play in that Minnesota dome, and all the Eagles' problems. I think it adds up to another Philly loss. I'm taking the Vikings.
God, that'd be brutal, dude, for the Eagles. The Panthers head to the Jets, and Brian, I very rarely say, man, every NFL team has to win one game. I don't think it's gonna be this week. I'm taking the Panthers. Until the Jets show me that they can pretend to be a at least Division II college football team. Yeah, I'm taking the Panthers. They're on a 2-game winning streak. They're riding high. Give me them.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could disagree, but I'm at the point where, like, I'm with you. Until the Jets actually get in the win column, I have no reason to pick them. And especially in a week where they're coming off a dreadful offensive performance, and now they don't have Garrett Wilson.
Nope.
So who exactly are we throwing the ball to? Your old friend Josh Reynolds? I mean, Mason
Alan
Taylor is a nice
Lazard.
player at tight end. It's brutal right now, and I mean, I've never thought too much of Bryce Young, but he's had his moments,
Yep.
and the Jets are just such a mess. I think Carolina wins.
Good moment for Dave Canales last week. His post game speech in the locker room as well, I thought was really cool, and it's a good moment for him. The Patriots head to the Titans, and the Titans, Bry, we didn't talk about this off the top, but we'll talk about it right now. The first head coaching victim of this NFL season, Brian Callahan, released of his duties in Tennessee earlier this week. They're 1-5. There's nothing really going right now. There's a lot of teams looking to pick the bones off of them. Ridley, Snead, all these guys are flying around in trade rumors. Patriots riding high right now, playing well. It's hard to pick against them. I'm taking New England, but I want to get, before your pick, give me your reaction to Brian Callahan getting fired and kind of what you think that means for the Titans going forward.
Yeah, well, it's another team, it wasn't long ago. This team was consistently not just competitive, but making the playoffs. I mean, with the Ryan Tannehill at quarterback, and when they had Derrick Henry and Mike Vrabel was
They
coaching.
were number
But
one seed
boy,
in the
has it!
AFC.
There you go. And in a short amount of time, you think about how much change there's been. They fired two GMs since then.
Yeah.
They're now going to be looking for their
Ownership
third
change, too.
coach since then. Yeah, ownership change too. So, it's an organization that's kind of in flux right now. And I know, you were on it about Callahan's coaching, calling him, one of the worst coaches
Yep.
in the league. And clearly, the Titans organization since that. I mean, can't say I was that surprised when his coaching record was, I want to say 9-24, something like
Yeah, it
that.
was
I mean, you're
terrible.
not going to last too long losing at that clip. And you thought even if they weren't going to be good this year after getting the number one pick and Cam Ward, that they would start to show signs of progress. And instead, no. I mean, they have one win, and it was by osmosis, where
Yeah,
Arizona
it
just
was
fell
wild.
apart. I mean, how did they win that game? And then they go out and play the Raiders and lose by double digits.
Yeah.
So I think it made sense to make the change, and they're gonna have to find their way again. But at least they have the building block of having the quarterback in place, and I think that will help them going forward. As far as this game, though, with the interim coach, you're going against the Patriots, who are feeling very good about themselves
Certainly
right
are.
now. I
First
mean,
place
may
Patriots.
even be thinking like place. Like who would have thought,
Yeah.
uh, having already a win over the Bills under their belt too. So I think they continue it here. Drake May's breakout season continues. Another lesser opponent. I see no reason why they wouldn't keep up the strong play.
Yeah, interim head coach Mike McCoy will be leading the Titans on Sunday. Yeah, good luck to him. There is some elements of Cam Ward where you're like, man, there it is. There's a little moment there where you're like, that's some talent right there. But he's just going to need weapons and an offensive mind to kind of cultivate around him. It's going to be an uphill battle for the young man. The 4 or 5 games kick off with the Giants and the Broncos. You want to talk about a team that is 2-4 but is feeling themselves. The New York Giants coming off of their Thursday night win against the Eagles. The rumors are swirling of them in the wide receiver trade market. That's how much they're believing right now in the Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterbo led Giants. And then you have the Denver Broncos here, Bry, who I think Bo Nix, as I've talked about, has not played a great season, but this defense is absolutely ferocious. I think in Mile High is a totally different environment for rookie against this defense. Give me Denver all day long. I think it'll be a good game, but I do not see the Giants winning this one. Give me the Broncos.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I mean, if the Giants ever won this game, suddenly
Then you would
they're
have to take them
thinking like,
seriously.
"Hey, maybe we can make the
Right.
playoffs." Yeah, you really would. They might be thinking, "Hey, we could make the playoffs this year." But this is the kind of game that isn't good for a rookie quarterback with minimal experience to go into that environment against that defense, which you talk about a unit that's feeling themselves off their 9 sack
It's
performance. Well,
ridiculous.
now they get the other New York team, which obviously has a lot more steam than the Jets going,
Yeah.
rightfully so. I mean, Dart has clearly brought a renewed energy that has been missing for so
It's
long from
nice to
this
see.
team. Scadaboo is running with purpose. Yeah, I mean, they're really just looking a lot better across the board, even with their number one receiver down for the season. It hasn't been as significant as maybe some people would have thought. I could see the Giants keeping it close. I think it'll be kind of a close, low scoring type of game just because Denver hasn't been lighting it up offensively.
Yeah.
But I do think in the end, Denver's defense is just too much here. I mean, they've just been harassing quarterbacks all season long so far. I think leading the league in sacks, and I think it makes life tough for a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, Nick Benino is easily the front runner for defensive player of the year. He's been unblockable. It's insane. The other 4 or 5 game is the Colts at the Chargers. A good one here. 5-1 versus 4-2. The Chargers beat to hell, come from behind. Another amazing play by Justin Herbert in winning that game. That pass to Lad McConkey, breaking out of a sack and setting them up for ultimately the game-winning field goal. And then on the other side, the Colts, a little bit of an off game maybe defensively against the Cardinals, but this offense continues to produce. Right now, I'm a believer in the Colts, Bry. I just think they are healthier right now. They got more weapons going on. Alec Pierce came back last week, and I think going into this Chargers game, I think it's going to be a good game. But I'm actually taking the Colts in this one. I just feel like they have all the momentum right now, and I think the Chargers are beat up. They're playing a tougher opponent. Give me the Colts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm no doubt a believer in the Colts. I mean, anyone who's not at this point just hasn't been paying attention. They've just been consistently good
Yeah,
week after week. I see this as a game where they could slip up. I still am a believer in this Chargers team, and I know that's always a dangerous proposition to
No,
believe
it's
in the
fair.
Chargers because they will let you down, as we know. But I like the way Herbert has played this season for the most part. I think they still do have a lot of weapons around him, even with some of the injuries, especially on the offensive line. I think Chargers home field advantage. I think it's a close kind of high scoring game, but I'm going to say Chargers 30 to 27.
Oh, that'd be awesome. The 425 games kick off with the Packers at the Cardinals. Possibly Kyler Murray missing another start. It might be Jacoby Brissett, which honestly, the offense kind of look better under Jacoby Brissett than Kyler Murray, which is a whole nother conversation for another day. I know the Packers, they're 3-1-1. They didn't even look great last week against Cincinnati, but they're just by far the better team. Give me Green Bay.
Yeah, I could see this being like an upset alert. I could. But I'm gonna say the Packers will pull it out. Like you said, you can't fully trust them at this point. They're very up and down. When they're good, they're
Yeah,
really good, but
for
we've
sure.
also seen them have their off games. But I think the difference is, Kyler missing another game. I don't know that Brissett can have back-to-back strong games at this point, so I'll take the Packers.
The other 425 game is the Commanders at the Cowboys. Commanders reeling a little bit, Bry. They gave that game away on Monday night. 3 turnovers, including that fumble there in the rain from the Jaden Daniels trying to hand it off to Bill. It didn't work out. The Bears end up winning that game, and then you have the Cowboys coming off a last-second field goal tough loss to the Carolina Panthers. Who you got in this one?
Yeah, it's one of the more interesting games, divisional matchup. I could see it going either way, but I'm going to take Dallas. I know it was a tough loss for them last week, but I'm going to believe in the offense because you can't believe anything on the defensive side of the
Yeah.
ball when it comes to the Cowboys. But I will say, like, Brian Schottenheimer as a head coach has probably been better than just about anyone thought. I mean, you never heard a coaching move that was more heavily criticized than when the
Yeah.
Cowboys made Schottenheimer the choice. And hey, the offense has played really well. Even without CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens has stepped up in a big way. He's been really good. And now they get CD back. So I think having
Yeah.
both of them out there, they've had a pretty consistent running game with Javonte Williams. I think they ride their offense at home to a close divisional win.
I'm taking the Commanders in this one only because I think this is going to be a very high scoring game. But the Commanders, they need to get right. Their season is teetering right here. That was a critical loss to the Bears. And you want to get right in a game, you play Dallas's defense. That's how you get right in this league. I think this is the perfect breakout game that Jaden Daniels needs to get back from the injuries. Now another game back, and I could see the Commanders winning this one in a kind of Cowboys Giants like shootout. The Sunday night game, Bry, is the Falcons and the Niners. And at the moment, the Niners are going to be starting Mac Jones. They have a bunch of injuries. They lost Fred Warner last week, a critical season-ending, ankle injury. He's never missed a game in his entire pro career. Even though obviously I'm a Rams fan, my heart's out to Fred Warner there. That's unfortunate to watch. He's a great player, and he goes down. Bosa's down. All the injuries that this team has dealt with. I mean, they're a Christian McCaffrey injury away, knock on wood, Bry, to just being completely done. Like, that's how bad things are. I don't know how Kyle Shanahan is holding this together. I don't know what to do with Atlanta, Bry. Like, I just don't. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes, like, they dominate, right? They beat the Bills, they beat the Commanders, and then, like, they do stupid things to lose to the Bucks in week 1. And they get blown out by the Panthers 30-0. Like, they're just, I don't
Yeah.
know how to operate with them. Who are you taking in this game?
Yeah, I kind of share your sentiments there, and I know there are some believers in Atlanta out of like the football pundits. I just can't bring myself to be one of them. I don't have enough belief in Michael Penix and
Yeah.
just the overall team. Like you said, they have games where you think, okay, they're looking like they could really be a playoff level team, but when you lose 30-0 to the
It's
Panthers,
just
suddenly
weird.
it's like, how good are you really? So yeah, the 49ers I just generally have more belief in. It's amazing the amount of injuries that they've
It's
dealt with. And it's not
insane.
just this year. I feel like the last few years, this is a team that has just been marred by injuries to
Yeah.
key players across the board. You have to give Kyle Shanahan a ton of credit for how he has kept the ship together. I think this will be a close game, but I just have more belief in the 49ers. You know, Mac Jones has had some good moments here last week, maybe notwithstanding against Tampa, but it's more just my lack of belief in the Falcons to do it on a consistent enough basis that I'm going to take the Niners.
Yeah, I've been split on this game. I'm going to be totally honest with you, but I think I'm also going to take the 49ers. We seen Kyle Shanahan go up against Raheem Morris, who used to be the defensive coordinator for the Rams, and he schooled that defense. Like, he knows those schemes, he knows that system, and even though the Falcons, I'll admit, obviously, right now at this time with all the injuries to the Niners, they're overwhelmingly the more talented team, right? They should win this game. But just like Michael Penix has been very mid this year, even in the game against Buffalo, like he almost threw a pick six to tie the game at the end for no reason. Like, I don't know how, I'm not a believer in him yet, and I feel like this feels like a classic Robert Saleh game. They're down a bunch of star players. He gets in that locker room in the team meetings this week and he goes, "We shut down Bijan Robinson. That is our main goal." He gets nothing. You were with him doubled every single snap he is on the field. We'll make Michael Penix beat us. Make Michael Penix and Drake London beat us because I don't believe they can. And I think that's going to be the style of game. And then on the other side, I think Kyle will be able to scheme it up enough against a pretty underrated Atlanta defense. And that's why I'm taking the Niners in this one. The Monday night games kick off, Brian. Yes, I said games because I think for like the third time
Mm.
this year, we're doing a doubleheader on Monday night, which I've talked ad nauseum about on this podcast. I hate with a passion. And this is the worst version of it because the 7 o'clock game kicks off with the Bucks Lions, a fantastic game, and then you have to wait 3 hours for the next game to kick off. But we'll get to that in a second. The Bucks Lions, Bry, I think this is a huge game for Detroit right now. They're a little bit reeling. The Bucks are injured. It looks like they are going to be out. That we know already that Todd Bowles has announced Bucky Irvin and Chris Godwin are already out. They are probably also going to be down Emeka Ibuka in this game, and we know Mike Evans is out. So all of the main weapons of this entire team are not playing offensively, and they've dealt with some nagging injuries defensively. That said, on the other side with Detroit, they're home. They need a win. They got punked last week against Kansas City. I'm taking the Lions in this one. But, man, I will say, Bry, if Baker wants to make a real MVP case and wants to be number one seed, what a statement this would be with playing with no one going into Detroit. That'd be huge. But I'm still taking the Lions.
Yeah, no doubt. And we know Baker as a Buccaneer has had some good performances against
Mm-hmm.
the Lions. You know, they've come out on top more often than not. The Lions beat them, you know, the one playoff matchup, but
That
the
was a good
Bucks
game.
have beaten them a couple times. Yeah, in the regular season. I'm going your direction here too. I'm taking the Lions. I just feel like coming off the loss, getting back home, facing a team that's as beat up as the Bucks are. To me, the key difference maker is missing Ibuka. I mean,
It's a
we've talked
killer.
about the impact that he's made as a rookie in such a short amount of time, becoming a go-to wide receiver. To not have him and his presence out there, I think makes this offense look a whole lot different and not in a good way. Missing your lead running back too. I mean, Rashad White is a good reserve running back, but he's not quite Bucky Irving. So I just think the Lions, in their building, get the offense going, get the running game going stronger, and they have enough to win it.
The final game of week number 7 is the 10 o'clock game, the 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time game. People got to go to work tomorrow, NFL. The Texans go up to Seattle to play a game there, and Seattle coming off an impressive win. And the Texans sitting on the bye, man. They're trying to get their mojo going. They got 2 wins in a row. Who you taking in this one, Brian? Remember, Seattle, I think it's been like they're 4-9 now in their last 13 home games. That is a factor. Who you got in this one?
Factor, and especially when like you look at the other way and they've won their last 9 road
It's
contests.
so
So who would
weird.
have thought that they've been so much stronger away from home. This is a team that year after year rides that home field advantage, the 12th man, the whole thing, and yet it just hasn't been working the same way lately. This is like a sneaky kind of game, I
It is.
think, where the Texans playing better, coming off the bye. Remember last time we saw them, they just blitzed the Ravens, scoring 44 points in an offense that had been struggling mightily to score any kind of totals. I'm gonna trust Seattle here. I know they haven't been great at home, but they just look like a solid football team. I mean, last week that could have been a tough game for them going into Jacksonville, and they kind of
Cross country, long
pulled
trip.
out a tough, gritty, yeah, kind of win there. So I could see this definitely being a close game, but I'm gonna trust Sam Darnold and what Smith and Jigba has been doing all season long. I'm gonna take Seattle.
I think it's going to be a low scoring game. I'm taking Seattle as well. I think it's going to be a battle of two defenses, but I think Seattle's like 1-2 at home this year. I think their only win is that blowout win against the Saints. I feel like they are due to even up that record at home. I think this feels like a 16-13 style game where maybe Stroud makes the last mistake. I think it's going to be a good one. It's a game I'll probably be watching on replay the next morning because I'm not staying up to watch this game, but I'm sure it'll be good nonetheless. As we talked about earlier, the Ravens and the Bills, two teams trending in the wrong direction, both on the bye in week number 7. But guys, that will wrap up here, 1st and 10. Brian, I want to thank you for being here, and thank all of you if you still watched to this point. As always, we love your comments and talking to you guys down below. There's been some nice engagement this season down below, so we greatly appreciate that. Even if I didn't respond to your comment that week because I'm so busy, trust me, I've read it, I've seen it, and we appreciate you. You are seen and you are heard. Bri, any final thoughts before we get out of here tonight?
So a couple quick things. We'll update the score on the Thursday night game. I see the Steelers right now are in the red zone, but Cincinnati has a 10-point lead, 20-10. And then just a quick note is once in a while we venture out into the baseball world, and especially now that we're in the championship series. I mean, it looks like the Dodgers are coasting to a World
Yep.
Series. They're up 3 games to none now on Milwaukee. Doesn't look like we're going to see anything competitive in that series. But on the other hand, the road teams are dominating the American League Series, where Toronto
Yeah.
may be on the verge of evening up that series after losing its first two in their building. So maybe some intrigue there. Otherwise, the baseball playoffs at this point don't overly thrill me. We
No.
know, they don't feature the Mets, and that's probably a big part in it. It's not like they've been bad, but I think we're just kind of mentally exhausted from going through the Mets season.
It's true.
And then finally, I just wanted to bring it up because I know sometimes I bring up some kind of broadcasting and media notes. There was a lot made of Troy Aikman and
Yeah.
his criticism of Caleb
Yeah.
Williams and the Bears offense. Now, I didn't get to hear his comments. I just, saw the story about it and wanted you to kind of weigh in because what I gather is that Troy was overly critical in his
Yes.
assessment of Caleb Williams, which seemed a little surprising because it's not like the Bears were playing that poorly. So I just kind of wanted to get your take on what was going on there.
Yeah, for sure. He when I was watching the game, I caught like the second half of the game the other night. He definitely was overly critical to the point where like it felt a little uncomfortable, like it felt a little personal. Then you had Caleb come out with the comments, I believe it was today at the press conference, talking about like, yeah, normally you go through the pre-production meetings. Me and Troy were supposed to meet and have a discussion. I called him, he didn't call me back. We didn't end up meeting, and the game happened. So like the whole thing around it is a little strange. You don't normally see that from such a professional crew in Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. Don't know what is. Maybe we'll get those layers of what's going on there as kind of the season progresses. I'm sure he'll probably cover another game of the Bears. I imagine they'll be in primetime at least one more time. But yeah, from that, total sky view, 36,000 feet in the air kind of view, I did think it was strange. And if you go back and watch some of those comments, there's a compilation, I believe, on Twitter. It is a little scathing for like no reason. Like it's I'm not the biggest Caleb Williams fan, but like it felt like almost like the man stole your lunch money, so you just kept going in on him on the broadcast.
Yeah, Troy doesn't usually go out of his way to be
Yeah.
overly critical on specific players, so that was kind of surprising. And look, I know Aikman gets a lot of heat. I mean, I've always been a Joe Buck fan. I think Joe and Troy on Monday night has been a really good booth. I enjoy listening to them. I think they're one of the better crews in the NFL, but I was just kind of interesting that Troy got himself in a bit of hot water there.
Yeah. I didn't think it would get as much buzz as it did. I didn't really think anything of it after the game ended, but man, it certainly has. But yeah, good points there, Bri. Thanks for bringing those up. As you were talking, the Steelers scored actually a 19-yard touchdown on 3rd and 18. It is now 20-17 Cincinnati. But guys, that wraps up our show here for week number 6, doing picks for week number 7. Comment all your thoughts down below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, share with your friends if you be so kind. And until next week of First and 10, thanks for watching.